Welcome to this edition of You Can Get There From Here. I'm Dr. Joel Moore, Chair of the Department of Communication and Digital Media Production at the University of Central Missouri, and it is my pleasure every week to get to visit with some of our alumni in our Digital Media Production program, our Communication Studies program, and our graduate program. We get to talk about where they are today and how the program helped them get there. Today, we are visiting with Brandi Triolo. You may know her as Brandi Sahlfeld. Brandi, I am really regretting doing this via Zoom because you are a graphic designer with Russell Stover's Chocolates, and I can't eat chocolate through a computer. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing really well, except that I'm, missing some chocolates.
I wish I could beam some to you.
That would be great. That's the next technology we'll be working on.
Yes.
Forget about Mars. Let's be able to beam chocolates to Joe. That'll be great. Well, let's start today by introducing yourself. Tell us where you're from. Tell us where you did your undergraduate in, and then tell us what led you to UCM and the graduate program.
So, yes, my name is Brandi Triolo. I grew up very near Warrensburg in little Knob-Noster, Missouri. So I always spent a lot of time on campus through my whole life. But yes, I pursued a BFA in graphic design at UCM. And when I was getting ready to graduate, I was like, man, I'm really not ready to be done with academia. I had a nice job on campus working for the Office of University Relations as a student designer. And they kind of worked with me to create a graduate assistant spot. And between them and talking with the head of the department at the time, who was Carol, she was interested in having a student who was sort of non-traditional in terms of what my background was in the communication department. So I knew that I wanted to stay in academia more. I wanted to kind of learn more broadly about communication. And so that's how I ended up in the master's program in the communication department.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people don't think about when when they think about graduate school. They're like, oh, it's going to be so expensive. It's so much time. They don't think about those graduate assistantships and how that pays you a stipend. And if you get the right
Yes.
one, it pays your tuition. You can go get a master's degree for free and get paid while you're doing it and get some very valuable experience. So, what did you do in it's now called integrated marketing and communication. I still struggle with university relations. That's what it was my entire time. What did you do in
Right. So I started out just as a student designer. So truly, we were making like graphics that would go on the school's website and mostly like graphics for specific departments. So they might come to us and say, hey, we want to feature this photo or we want to promote a certain program. So we would make like a web banner that would go at the top of their page. But then as I gained some more experience in that office, my graduate assistantship, I was sort of I don't remember exactly what the title was, but sort of like a design lead for the other student designers. So I was doing a lot of promotional items for all the clubs on campus, continuing to work with the academic departments, but we would get to do all the fun stuff like the posters, the graphics, stickers, t-shirts, all kinds of stuff like that. And then also during my assistantship, I was learning video production. I'm not sure if he's still there, but I worked with John Kennedy, he was a
He's still
super
here.
nice guy.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
good. I'm
He's
glad
still
to
here.
hear that. He was wonderful. So he, between my classes in the master's program and him, I learned some video production skills. I can't say I stuck with it because I was like, man, this is hard work. And I was like, I think I'll stay over here on my design path. But I enjoyed learning those skills because, of course, video is more and more king. So I
Oh
learned a
yeah.
lot.
So, have you always been into art, or what got you into graphic design?
I think my mother is a very creative person, and she always really encouraged creativity in me and my brother. So I had an artistic skill through her, and I loved being on the computer. I could kind of figure out how to make anything on the computer, and I'm talking at the time I had access to like PowerPoint was the most powerful design software I had. And I was still having fun kind of clicking around in that. So in high school, I was able to take an art class or two, and I kind of realized like something I want to pursue a little bit more. So once I got to college, then I really got to dive into like fine arts classes, which isn't something I had a ton of experience with, but just what I loved about college is you were just immediately immersed in this community where you're surrounded. For me, I was surrounded by other artists. I was surrounded by artists who were better than me, which kind of pushed me to get better quickly. And I had great professors who I think were able to work with people at all different skill levels. So while fine arts is not so much in my wheelhouse, once I got to the computer classes, I was ready to like take off and have a lot of fun.
Where do you get your ideas from for your designs?
I think as a designer, just taking in visuals and taking in inspiration as much as you can is really important. So following other designers that inspire you, following brands that you think are doing things well. I go for walks constantly and just take pictures of things. I'm lucky enough to live on the plaza here in Kansas City.
Oh, nice.
So as a package designer, there's a lot of retail stores around here. So I'm constantly just going in, taking pictures, seeing what trends are, and then of course your personal tastes develop and you kind of figure out ways to apply what you like to your own work and see if you can sort of push the way things look so that it's appealing to you as well.
And this is one of those things that a lot of people may not think about, but they think about the design, they think about the art, but you have a master's degree in communication.
Hmm.
And I'm assuming then that you're also not only looking at the design itself, but how is it communicating a message to your audience? Would that be accurate?
That is 100%. That's probably the most important thing about graphic design is yes, you want it to look nice, but there's always a message that you are trying to deliver. So I'll speak in terms of package design because that's what my expertise is in. But there of course there are laws about communicating nutrition facts and how many pieces are in a package and things like that. But then also, do you want this to appeal because it's a Christmas design and you want it to look really holiday and you want somebody to buy this and put it in a Christmas stocking? Or do you want it to be like a really elegant add-on gift because you're excuse me, because you're visiting somebody's house and you want to make a good impression? So communicating through design, that's what graphic design is all about, is taking a message and making it visually appealing and really clear to the end consumer.
And I know you're not supposed to assume, but I'm assuming that you work with a team of other designers and packagers and things like that. Is that accurate, or do you work by yourself most of the time?
No, that's correct. We have at Russell Stover, we have a team right now that's me and one other full-time designer. And then we have a design supervisor who her background is also in graphic design. So she also does design work for the team when we need an extra pair of hands. We recently had three full-time designers, but one has pursued another opportunity and she's traveling right now. So it's a core three right now.
So you've got a team, got a little
Yeah.
smaller, it's going to grow. So
Yeah.
you have to be able to adapt. When I talk to professionals, when I do any kind of research about what employers are looking for, I keep coming up with three things. Number one, they want you to be able to write. Number two, you need to be able to speak and communicate orally. And number three, they really want some research skills. And you talked about with your testimonial you sent to me, the research skills that you've developed. I'm assuming that there's also a lot of research that goes into your job.
Yes, I would say all three of those skills were exactly what I gained by going through this master's program because I'll start with the research. I, as a designer, don't conduct a lot of research, but my counterparts on our marketing team do. So they're doing focus groups with consumers. They're showing the package designs that like preliminary work that we may have done and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What if it says this? And then we have to distill those results and then apply the results to create more effective design. So even just understanding the terminology of research, and when when you say this is qualitative research, what that
Mhm.
means and understanding it. I use my skills from the master's program every day in terms of understanding how research is conducted.
Well, and I'm glad you say that because we get a lot of students who say, well, I'm not going to do research. No, but you need to know how to read it. You need to know, did they do it well, right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
I'd say, writing is also super important as a designer. Like you have to be able to write briefs, you have to be able to understand briefs, and you have to be able to talk about your work clearly and explain why you made the decisions that you did to arrive to a particular design. So all three of those skills that you mentioned are heavily important to my job anyway.
Well, I like hearing that from somebody who's actually out there in the field because it's what I keep preaching to students. I want to make sure I'm right. I want to make sure I'm getting the right information
Yeah.
to them. So that's great. What's next for Brandi Triolo?
Oh man. So I have in my free time, I like to put my creative skills to use. I design cross stitch patterns.
Oh,
So I really wanted a hobby that was not computer screen based, but still kind of artistic. So I am still on the computer designing the patterns, but then I get to spend some creative time just stitching and creating fun little things. They're usually like based off of video games because I like to play video games as well. But in the future, me and my husband hope to kind of relocate to the East Coast. That's where he's from. And he is a packaging engineer. So, where I'm creating the artwork for the form, he's creating the form itself. So we're
okay.
hoping that we can head east and find something out there where we're able to kind of continue to put our skills to use.
Very nice. Just got back from a vacation on the East Coast, went to New York and
Oh,
Boston,
nice.
and for a Midwest boy, that is a major culture shock, major change. But
Yeah.
my family, we love it out there. Love going out to the
Yeah.
East Coast. So
That's
last two
awesome.
questions I have for you. I ask these of everybody because I like to get to know from our alumni, like to get them to share with our current students and with our prospective students a couple pieces of advice. So first of all, what would you say? What piece of advice would you give to a current UCM student studying graphic design, studying digital media or comm studies, working on their master's degree? What's one piece of advice you'd give them?
My advice would be, and this is advice I received that was very helpful to me, is to assign yourself projects. Um, Boost your portfolio with work outside of what you're doing in school. Obviously, your school assignments are very important, but as you're coming into the workforce as a brand new designer or just a brand new person to the career field, you want to be able to show a diversity of work that you can do. And so just assigning yourself a little bit of homework goes a long way in terms of showing that you have the skills that people need, and then just showing that you have some initiative to really boost your portfolio and make yourself appealing to prospective employers.
Yeah, that initiative I think is a very important one. So for a student who has just completed their undergrad and they're thinking about going for a master's degree, what would you tell them about the UCM communication degree, the communication master's program to entice them to come to UCM?
I would tell them that my favorite part of being in that department was the broad experience that I got to encounter. So, like I mentioned earlier, I got to learn some about video production, I got to learn about journalism, and I got to learn from people who are experts, and not only experts, but just nice people and fun to hang out with. There's I remember a lot of people that I was in that master's program with, and they were all super kind people and very talented people. And I just remember feeling like, wow, I get to absorb so much knowledge right now in these couple of years that I think is going to stick with me for a long time and kind of broaden my own skill set in a unique way. So yeah, I would say just absorb all the knowledge you can, even if it's not directly related to your field of interest. It's still going to help you become a more rounded professional.
I love that. Well, Brandi, thank you so much for being here today. Good luck to you. Keep making those great designs, and I'm gonna get out of here and go get me some chocolates.
Nice. Thank you.
And thanks all of you for tuning in today. Remember, you can catch every episode on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/UCMMN. You can also listen on Spotify. Special thanks to Jake Mager for creating our theme music. Again, this is Dr. Joe Moore reminding you, you can get there from here. Have a great day.